everybody. A little bit of a different backdrop today, and I think I have makeup right here. Sorry about that. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. I'm going to actually maybe open up these blinds and see if that helps, or maybe close these. Closing that might help just a little bit. I'm kind of adjusting the lighting here. Oh, you can't hear me at all? That's not good. Okay, so Shanna can hear. Is anybody else having trouble hearing me? Just let me know. Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm going to try opening these blinds, but it might take me just a slight adjustment to get the lighting just right, since I kind of changed things around just a little bit. How's that? Hopefully that's going to be fine. Okay, so today we have a little bit of a different background. If you watched my vlog yesterday, we basically just completely cleaned up this office. And so what I've been doing is I've been turning this Mac sideways. So I had a specific kind of backdrop over here, and it makes for some interesting edits and other things that I need to do throughout the week, because I'm constantly like moving it around, and it messed up my desk. So when we get back to reading The Witch's Key, I will turn it again and you will see it a little bit better, like the old sort of backdrop. But for now, we've got a new kind of look. So thank you, Kelly. She says the lighting is more appropriate for a romantic story. And that is what we have today, is a more of a romance story. And these characters are not as teenage. So they're more like 18, 19. And, you know, the hero of this story is quite a bit older. So a little bit of a more what we would call new adult story. And there are a couple of curse words in this one. So maybe not as appropriate if you were watching this today with someone who is like younger than maybe 14 years old, or someone who you just don't want to hear the S word or the D word. I'll just go ahead and say that. This is just, I could edit them out, I guess, for YouTube, but they are in there. So nothing too bad. I would still consider it appropriate for teens, but just as a little bit of a content warning, there are a couple of curse words in this story, literally two. There's two. What we're going to be doing is we are going to be reading my story Red, which is from the anthology Once Upon a Kiss. We're going to read part 1 of it today, and we're going to read part 2 of it on Wednesday. Friday, we will have another sort of special thing for you. George and I are going to talk about it on our walk today. We're going to kind of decide what we want to do on Friday, but this story isn't really long enough, I felt, to stretch it out over 3 days. So we're just going to do 2 days of reading for this story. And I hope that you all enjoyed it. How was your weekend? I hope everybody had a great weekend. It was a pretty good weekend here for us, but you might have seen in the vlog yesterday, Evie had her vaccinations on Friday and she did not respond super well to it. So we had a really rough, kind of weekend with her. So we did a lot of snuggling on Saturday, not very much work, but it's all good. She's doing much better today. So it's definitely much better now. But we had kind of a rough weekend here. I so needed this today, had a really rubbish weekend. Oh no, Jim, I'm sorry to hear that. We had a tough weekend too. Maybe it's just kind of a rough weekend all the way around. But I hope you guys are having a better start to the week. Happy Monday, happy Tuesday for those of you across the world in New Zealand and Australia and so on. So welcome. I'm so glad that you guys are here back for another week. A couple of little things before we get started on the reading. We're going to be reading Red, and I'll give another little disclaimer right before we start. But this is the week where me and 16 of my friends are trying to hit the USA Today Bestseller List with our anthology, Once Upon a Kiss. So this anthology actually came out a few years ago, and we've been doing these anthologies once a year around February every year for the past, I think, 5 or 6 years. And it's just an anthology of short stories between like 4,000 and 10,000 words long that are based on fairy tales. So they're sort of retellings of fairy tales. Most of the time they do have a romance element to them. And I'm one of the only teen writers in these, like writers for YA. Most of the writers in this anthology write either paranormal romance or urban fantasy. So they're more adult fiction. But this anthology is currently on sale. It's 99 cents, and it is 99 cents for this week only. In order to help us, if you want to help contribute to hitting the USA Today Bestseller List, there are a few things that you can do. Again, this is the USA Today Bestseller List. So if you're in the UK, sadly, or across the ocean somewhere, or not in the United States, even Canada, it is not going to count unless you purchase your book at Amazon.com, or I think even at Apple, it's only going to count for the US sales. So you can certainly support us anyway, which would help towards our advertising funds. But this is really something that's going to help out a lot if you're here in the United States. So I'm going to give you guys just a couple of ways that you can help. So number one, you can buy a copy. Obviously, if you haven't purchased this book before, buying a copy would be super helpful, especially if you're in the United States. Now, if you want to extra help, it would help if you buy a copy off of Amazon, somewhere besides Amazon. So there are multiple places where you can get ebooks online, including barnesandnoble.com, kobobooks.com, and Apple Books. So if you can purchase from one of those other vendors, and I've got all the links in the description box below, it would really help us, because you have to sell at Amazon as well as at least another vendor, and you have to sell at least 500 copies at each vendor in order for them to report the sales, which is kind of like technical kind of things. But all you guys need to know is we need to get at least 500 sales at Barnes & Noble or Apple.com or Apple Books to hit the bestseller list. We know we're going to do it at Amazon because we're going to definitely sell a lot of copies there. So if you want to help out, even if you've already purchased this, say on Amazon before, you can go and purchase it at barnesandnoble.com if you have an extra $1 to send. I have one of my best friends, she was like, I'm going to buy it at all 4 places. It is also on sale at Google Play. However, Google does not count towards the bestseller list. So there's a lot of little tricks to hitting the list. Also, just another note, Kobo Books, for some reason, is not going to discount our book until tomorrow. So it's currently still $2.99 there. It will still count if you purchase it, but if you're going to purchase at Kobo, just wait until tomorrow, because then it will be 99 cents. So buy a copy, buy multiple copies at other vendors. That would be super helpful. Number two, you could gift it to a friend. So if you want to gift it to a friend, like if you're in the UK, but you want to buy a couple dollar gift certificate or gift card on Amazon.com for a friend of yours in the United States, that would help. If you've already purchased the book in several places or at Amazon, you could gift it to a friend, and that purchase will count as well. A third thing that you can do is you can just share the news. So like right now on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Sarah Cannon, I have a post that has all the links. So even if you're in a foreign country, but you have friends here in the United States, you could share that post, help us get more sales. So I sincerely appreciate all your help. We'll see if it's going to happen. This was definitely on my vision board for the year, but I was not expecting this particular anthology to even have a chance. This is something that's just come up for us. I will also be trying to hit the list later in the year with a box set of some of the Shadow Demon Saga books. So if this one doesn't hit, I'll be asking you guys for help again later. But I sincerely appreciate it. And of course, this is definitely not expected, but just if you would like to support me in some way, this would be an amazing way to do it. Thank you so much. I see a lot of people say that you got it, you bought it this morning, or you already purchased it at a couple of places. So please, please, please accept my thanks for George, we definitely have a problem in the chat there. Thank you so much for your help with this, for your encouragement and your support. It really means a lot. And I will just be giddy. If I manage to hit it, maybe we need to have like a USA Today Bestseller List party here in the chat. And we'll see, we'll have like another special thing. And actually we'll know pretty quickly because I think the list comes out on Wednesday or Thursday next week. So we'll have this week to sell the book. We have from today until Sunday to sell the book, and those sales will all count. And then on Wednesday of next week or Thursday of next week, we'll find out whether or not we sold enough books. I think in order to hit in the top 150, we are going to have to sell about 5,000 copies in the US this week, which is not going to be easy, but we'll see what happens, Let's see. Yes. And I totally understand that some of you, it's not going to count, but that's okay. We're going to do the best we can. And we are going to, we're going to see what happens. If, like I said, if you can't purchase it here in the United States, just sharing the news or just being here to send up good positive vibes and, supporting me in that way is super helpful. Even just hitting the thumbs up button right now helps, because that helps YouTube show this video to more people where I can show other people. It's okay, George, I deleted it. Maybe it'll come back. We'll see. Okay. Yay, Cheryl. Thank you. She bought it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I really, really appreciate it, guys. It really means a lot. And I don't know, I'll be totally giddy if this happens. It'll be a crazy, fun experience. So, okay. So I'm going to read my short story, Red. And like I said, I'm going to be reading it today and I'm going to be reading it on Wednesday, part 2. So, Kelly asked, is it only available as an ebook or are there physical copies? So there are physical copies and the physical copy actually counts as well. And it's on Amazon, but it might be kind of expensive. I can't remember, but there are paperback copies on Amazon. So if you go to the link that I sent you to on Amazon and you change the format from ebook to paperback, there is a paperback available, but I think it's really big. And so I think it might be like $17 or something really expensive, but yes, there are some available. Thank you guys. Yay on Apple. Sweet, sweet, sweet. I can't wait to see like where our rankings go. And I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep you guys updated. I should have a pretty good idea by Friday, whether or not it's looking like we're going to sell enough books, by then or not. So we'll see. Okay, so I am going to read the first part of my short story, Red. Since some of you are just coming in, I am also going to let you know real quick that there are a couple of curse words in this, and this is a little bit older than, I would say, 14 plus. So if you have young children that were listening to The Witch's Key that are only like 10 or 11, this one might not be as appropriate. My 7-year-old is still going to listen to it because it's fine, and he hears bad words sometimes. Lissa, the collection is called Once Upon a Kiss. Thank you so much for asking, because I might not have said that. All right, so I'm excited, you guys. Yes, I will definitely update you guys on the sales as soon as I get updates from Anthea. So I'll let you guys know. I think it's going to take at least 5,000 sales to hit the list. So we will see kind of what's happening. LRR, Little Red Riding Hood is what my updated paranormal retelling is about too. Carol, that's so awesome. I love Little Red Riding Hood, and I have never written this particular kind of hero before, but I will also let you guys know that this story, unlike Ella and the Haunted House that I read a couple weeks ago, this story is tied to my Shadow Demon saga. So many of you know I have a story world that has more than 1 million words in it and has 15 books, and the 16th book will be coming out in just a few months. That is called the Shadow Demon saga. So there are 10 books currently published in the main series. Then there are side stories and all kinds of things like that you can also read. Sacrifice Me is one of the side stories to my Shadow Demon saga. This character that I introduced in this short story appears in my Sacrifice Me series as well. But this is where we first meet him. And I really, really, really want to write another story about him. So we'll see. Let me know what you guys think about this character and whether you would want to hear more about him. I have some ideas, but it's just a matter of time. Okay, so here we go, you guys. We're going to read Red. This is part 1 or episode 1 of Red. Chapter 1. My little sister whimpered and clutched at her arms. Sweat beaded on her forehead and her hair was soaked. "Come on, Rayla," I said, holding my hands in front of me in prayer. I could hardly stand to watch her go through this, but I couldn't leave her side. "Wake up. You've got to wake yourself up." When she was in this dream state, it was extremely dangerous for anyone else to wake her up, but we'd tried to teach her several tricks for how to wake herself when she was stuck in one or more of her dangerous visions. She moaned and kicked her legs, but her eyes remained closed. I shook my head and stood up, wanting to punch something. It wasn't fair. Rayla was only 8 years old. How could the coven simply turn their back on someone so young and innocent? It's for the greater good. I'd heard that statement enough times now to hear it echoed in my head for all eternity. I didn't give a shit about the greater good if it meant letting a sweet little girl endure torture like this. So far, she'd been lucky enough to wake up without too many injuries, but I'd heard stories about others, girls who had not been so lucky. Some of them went to sleep and either never woke up or woke up with burns or slashes across their bodies so damaging that they couldn't recover. I had to do something. I couldn't let that happen to my little sister, no matter what the rest of the coven said. They weren't the ones left behind to take care of her when our parents died in that bombing downtown. Rayla was my responsibility and had been for the past 3 years. I'd just turned 18 the month before they died, so I was given sole custody of my sister. She was my life now. I wasn't going to let her die, not like this. "Charlotte?" I turned at the sound of her weak voice, my eyes instantly flooding with tears of gratitude. I knelt by her side and grabbed her hands. "I'm here," I said. "Was it a bad one?" She nodded. Her lips were chapped, and there were faint scratches all over her arms. Not enough to draw blood, but enough to cause pain. I kissed her hand and reached for a glass of water, helping her sit up so she could drink. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked. She looked away. I knew better than to push her too hard. If she didn't want to talk about it, it was best just to leave it for another day. It was only 4 a.m, but there would be no more sleep tonight. "Should I make tea?" I asked. She squeezed my hand. "In a minute," she said, "but I have something important I need to tell you." I leaned closer and brushed the hair away from her face. A sweaty strand stuck to her skin. "What is it, love?" "I saw something tonight," she said. "Something that could change everything for me." I straightened and dropped her hand. She'd never told me anything like this before. She would sometimes discuss the monsters she'd faced or the types of people she encountered in her dreams, but she didn't like to talk about anything that related to us or our future. "I need you to do something for me," she said, her eyes staring straight into mine without blinking. My heart nearly stopped from fear. "Anything," I said. "You know that." "It could be very dangerous," she said. "Will it help to keep you safe?" I asked. She nodded. "Then tell me," I said, and I meant it. I would do whatever I could to keep her safe, even if it cost my own life. Chapter 2. Shadows fell across the forest floor, and I ran from tree to tree, trying my best to stay invisible in the darkness. I'd never been so far outside the city, and I was terrified of the noises out here. Wild animals, unlike anything that lived inside the city limits. I'd grown up my whole life in Los Angeles, And other than trips to the beach or the park, I'd never been out in what anyone would have called nature. I preferred the concrete jungle because it was familiar. But Rayla had seen this place very clearly in her visions, and so far, everything looked exactly like she'd said it would. Like me, my little sister had never left the noisy streets of the city and the suburbs. The only time she'd ever seen a forest and mountains like this would have been on TV or in a movie, but she'd described this exact location down to the curve of the trees and the sound of my boots when they step across the leaves. Somewhere around here, there should be a house. It didn't make much sense because there was no road anywhere close to here that I could tell. No roads, no worn paths, nothing. The forest appeared completely undisturbed. But Rayla had said it would be here. A cabin with only a single room and a small porch out front with 3 steps leading up. There would be no lights shining from inside and no smoke or fire coming from the chimney. The windows would be closed and boarded shut, as if no one had remembered it existed for many decades. She hadn't told me what I'd find inside, only that it would be the key to saving her. A bird screeched, the sound echoing through the trees and nearly sending me backwards a few feet. I leaned against a tree to catch my breath, my heart racing. I laughed and shook my head. There was nothing to be afraid of, just a few animals. There was no moon at all tonight, and I'd been using a small flashlight I found in a drawer in my father's old room, but the light was growing dim, and I hadn't thought to bring extra batteries. I beat the flashlight against the heel of my hand, hoping to wake it back up, but the light went out completely, leaving me in total darkness until my eyes could adjust. I took a deep breath and slid the flashlight into the pocket of my favorite red hoodie. I could handle this. Witchcraft 101, right? I lifted my palm and closed my eyes. I calmed the furious beating of my heart and exhaled, blocking out all other sounds around me. Slowly, I felt the pull of the earth, the current that ran under my feet and all around me, the power of nature. I dipped into that power, connecting with it until the hum of it ran through my veins. I imagined an orb of light hovering above my palm, and within seconds, the light was there. I opened my eyes and smiled. See? Not so bad for a witch who'd been mostly out of practice for the past few months. I'd been spending so much of my time and energy taking care of Rayla that I'd completely neglected my duties for the coven. There were whispers and rumors about the prima losing her patience with me, but I didn't care. If she wanted me to be a better witch for the Ruby Gates, she should have agreed to help protect my sister. I stepped forward with my orb of light, shaking off thoughts of the prima and the other witches in my coven. So far, I hadn't done anything bad enough to attract the attention of the Ruby Priestess, the witch who ruled all the Ruby Gates in the Order of Shadows, but I needed to be careful. If anyone found out I was planning to break into one of the Order's secret cabins in the woods and steal something they had hidden away, the priestess would surely find out. I didn't even want to think about what might happen to me then. Death, most likely, which would leave no one to take care of Rayla. Her power would be completely ruled by the Order. I couldn't let that happen. They would use her up and toss her away. A path appeared in front of me, and I gasped. This was the first sign that anyone had ever walked in these woods, from the looks of it, and they had been here recently. I dimmed my orb's light and stepped behind a large tree while I surveyed the path. I couldn't see very far in front of me in the darkness, so I sent my orb along the path a few feet. When the steps of the cabin appeared, I put a hand over my mouth. She'd been right. Rayla had never been here, but somehow she'd known exactly how to lead me to this place. I held on to the tree for balance. I'd known my sister's power was important and rare, but it wasn't until this moment that I really understood just how powerful she could become in the order. A witch who could see what she wanted to see so clearly, she could describe it down to the last pine needle. She could lead you exactly where you needed to go, down to the very step. No wonder the order wanted her powers kept intact. If I managed to dim her powers or even put a stop to them in order to save her life, the order would never forgive me. Not when there was a dangerous war going on with that girl from Georgia and her people. The order had already lost 2 priestesses and hundreds of demon gates. They couldn't afford to lose the ruby gates now, too. Rayla might be able to help them in the coming war, which was exactly why they refused to help her. They would rather she died than do anything that could dampen her powers. I took a deep breath and stepped forward in the darkness, heading toward my orb's light with careful footsteps. It didn't look like anyone was inside the cabin, but it was difficult to tell with all the windows boarded up the way they were. The old boards creaked as I walked up the steps toward the front porch, and I paused, waiting to see if anyone would rush out or come to the door. When I didn't hear any footsteps or movement inside the cabin, I kept going. My hand trembled slightly on the doorknob, but I pushed aside my fears. This was ridiculous. I had come all this way to get whatever it was that could help my sister. I had to go inside, so it was better to just face it as fast as possible and get it over with. Only I was in no way prepared for what I found when I opened that door. I'd expected potions, maybe a lab with a lot of ingredients. I even imagined finding an old witch inside who would threaten to kill me if I took another step. But never in a million years had I pictured this. A man, wearing nothing but a pair of jeans and black t-shirt, sat on the dusty floor of the old cabin. A large silver cage took up most of the single room, and there was no sign of a kitchen or even a bathroom. No beds or couches like you would expect to see in a normal cabin. Instead, there was a single table pushed against one wall, an assortment of dirty plates and bottles scattered across it. Other than the cage, there was nothing else here. The man looked up, his dark curls shading his face so that I could just barely make out a hint of a smile. "Well, hello there," he said, a thick British accent coloring his words. "I haven't seen you before." He made no move to stand up or get a closer look at me, so I stayed in the open doorway, ready to run if he tried to cast any magic or spell on me. I'd never known a man who could wield magic, but I was smart enough to know that I knew almost nothing about the world outside my small neighborhood and my coven. I glanced at the lock on the cage and relaxed a little. Even if he could perform some magic, he obviously wasn't able to open the large padlock hanging from the door of the cage. If he tried something, all I had to do was run. He wouldn't be able to chase me. I inched into the room and motioned for my orb of light to scan the room. I still wasn't exactly sure what I was looking for, but I couldn't afford for this guy to distract me. I had no idea how much time I had before someone came back here and discovered me. I did my best to ignore him and search the room. The only clue Rayla had given me was that I would know it when I found it. I walked over to the table near the wall and searched, but I couldn't see any sign of a potion or a talisman. The only things here were completely useless to me. Unless there were things hidden inside the walls or the floors, Rayla had been wrong about this place. "Damn," I muttered. I wanted to smash something. I'd come all this way and taken this huge risk, but it was just another wild goose chase. Before this, I'd spent weeks breaking into the Prima's house to search her secret library of spell books on the 3rd floor. I'd had to bribe someone with the last of my insurance money from my parents' death just to get information about that secret room, and it had turned out to be of zero help to me in the long run. If there was a spell or potion that would save my sister, it wasn't mentioned in those books. And whatever it was, wasn't here either. I'd come all this way for nothing. I ran a hand through my hair and slammed it down on the table, sending several empty bottles and a fork onto the floor with a crash. The man inside the cage laughed. I spun on my heels and stared at him in hatred. "Why are you laughing?" I asked. He casually placed his elbow across his upraised knee as he lounged on the floor. "When you opened that door, I thought you were a witch coming to kill me," he said. "But you didn't even know I was here, did you?" I didn't respond. Instead, I walked around the perimeter of the room, searching for any kind of hidden cubby or loose floorboard. "You're obviously looking for something," he said. "Maybe I can help you." "I seriously doubt that," I said. I squared my shoulders and desperately tried to look as if I had some idea of what I was doing here. The corner of his mouth tilted up in an annoying smirk. "Oh, you do? And why is that?" I raised an eyebrow. "You're locked in a cage in the middle of the woods," I said. "I didn't see any sign of anyone nearby, not even footprints. That must mean some kind of witch has you. Am I right?" He nodded once, never taking his eyes off mine. "So, I seriously doubt that you'd be of much help to me, considering I, myself, am a witch." He mumbled something and turned away. "What was that?" I asked, tilting my head toward him. "I didn't quite catch that." He smiled, but tried to cover his mouth with his hand. "Nothing, love." He shook his head, but I didn't let up, giving him my best evil eye. He shrugged. "I just said that you, though perhaps a witch, are nothing like the woman who locked me in this place." "Perhaps a witch?" I asked, stepping back. This guy was getting on my last nerve. "Who the heck do you think you are anyway? You know nothing about me." "I could take a guess at a few things," he said, the smirk never leaving his eyes, which I was trying desperately not to notice, were the most entrancing shade of golden brown, almost yellow in this light. "Oh, really?" I crossed my arms and shifted my weight. "For someone stuck in a large cage, you sure are arrogant. And as much as I'd absolutely love to hear whatever it is you've got to say about me, all of which would be wrong, I'm sure, I've got more important things to do right now." "Whatever you say, Red." I turned toward him. "What did you call me?" I'm sure if the light was stronger, he would have been able to see the red on my cheeks right now, which would only egg him on. I was glad it was a bit dark in here. "I called you Red because of that red hood, and because, just like the witches who put me in here, you're a ruby witch," he said, standing slowly and walking toward the front of the cage. He stopped just shy of the bars, not quite touching them. "But unlike those women, you have an entirely different purpose for coming here. Stop me if I'm going off course." I couldn't speak or move. There may have been thick bars between us, but now that he was standing closer, he had me completely mesmerized. I should have turned and ran, but I couldn't seem to take my eyes off him. Was he some type of sorcerer? I wasn't sure, but whatever he wasn't entirely human, and he was dangerous. "They come here to do horrible things to creatures like me," he said. "But you're not here to do evil work, are you? You're looking for something, though I can't quite sense what. You're afraid, though, as if you're scared you'll be caught." "I'm not scared," I said, fumbling over the words, proving that they were nothing more than lies I was telling myself. I was terrified. The order had expressly forbidden me to go looking for any kind of cure for my sister. They said her powers were too important to the war effort, and that if she died in the process, it was her duty to sacrifice her life for the greater good. If they caught me here, seeking out a cure in one of their very own secret hideaways, I had no doubt they'd put me to death in one of their dark magic rituals. And then what would become of Rayla? She would belong wholly to them. "Whatever it is you're looking for, I don't think you're going to find it here," he said. "And how would you know that?" I asked. My mouth was dry as if it had been stuffed with cotton. Because they got here before you did, he said, glancing toward the messy table against the far wall. The witch who was here earlier cleared out all of her spell books and potions. I assumed the next group of witches to arrive would be here to put an end to me. He smiled and stepped within a fraction of the silver bars. I'm pleasantly surprised to find out that's not the case, he said. What are you? I whispered. He shrugged and stepped away, finally breaking eye contact. I let go of the breath I'd been holding and my shoulders relaxed. That doesn't really matter, he said. What matters is that we might be able to help each other. Tell me what you're looking for, and I'll tell you if I can get it for you. And if you can, then you let me go, he said, an even exchange. I shook my head and backed toward the door. How would I even know if I could trust you? I asked. They wouldn't have placed you in that strong of a cage if you weren't a danger to witches. How do I know that you wouldn't kill me the moment I set you free? Trust is a very tricky thing. I agree, he said, turning back toward me. But if you walk away now, you leave completely empty-handed. And I have a feeling that for you to take such a terrible risk to get here, you must have something extremely important you need to find. It can't hurt to at least tell me what it is. If I can't help you, I'll tell you the truth, and you can be on your way. My heart pounded, and the light of my orb wavered, nearly going out completely. I closed my eyes and recentered my focus on the light. Even though he was locked away, I did not want to be alone in the dark with this, what had he called himself? Creature? I hate to rush you when you're trying to make such a difficult decision, but we are no longer alone in these woods. He stepped to the left side of his cage and tilted his head as if stretching his ear toward some faint noise. You have less than 5 minutes to get out of here before it's too late. I backed into the door and wrapped my hand around the knob. I should run, get out while I still could. There was nothing here that could help me. Rayla had been wrong, or I'd been too late. Either way, I couldn't let the witches of the order find me here. But what if he was telling the truth? What if he really could help me find a potion or cure for Rayla's sickness? Could I just walk away from him and let him be sacrificed? I took a deep breath to calm the pounding of my heart. I have someone very close to me who is in danger, I said, not wanting to give too many details. She's what the order calls a seeress. He moved forward so fast he became a blur inside the cage. He grabbed the silver bars and then pulled back sharply. A seeress? He asked, his eyes flashing yellow. It was the same greed and fascination I'd seen in the eyes of my prima when she first found out about Rayla's abilities. Maybe I've said too much, I said. I turned the knob on the door, and a blast of cold air hit me, bringing tears to my eyes. Don't go, he said, his voice softer than before. You aren't in any danger from me, I assure you. I was only surprised to hear it. There hasn't been a true seeress in ages. How did he know that? I turned to face him, confused about whether I could trust him, whether I should. That's because they often die, which if you know about the existence of them, you must also know why, I said, testing him. A true seeress is often pulled into her visions as if she's experiencing them firsthand, he said. The compassion in his voice brought me back into the room. It can be extremely dangerous unless she learns how to control them. This seeress of yours, is she very young? I nodded, wide-eyed, as I looked at him. She's only 8. My voice choked slightly on the word, too young to be given such a great burden. 8 years old and already manifesting powerful visions. And your ruby priestess refuses to help her, he said. It wasn't a question. Maybe he knew the order better than I did. I nodded. So, you were looking for a cure, he asked. But then he shook his head and backed away. I'm afraid I can't do anything about a complete cure. My shoulders drooped and my heart hurt. Her ability is too rare and powerful, and it's a part of her now, he said. If she were only 4 or 5, there might be a chance to cure her completely. But if she's only 8 and already taking on injuries from her visions, I'm afraid it's too late. And you can believe the order knows that just as well as I do. It's rare for those powers to manifest at that level so young. Did something happen around her 5th birthday? Something that solidified her powers? Something tragic that pushed her over the edge? Her visions would have started becoming more frequent at that point, more dangerous. I moved forward, coming closer to him than I ever had. Our parents died in a bombing 2 days before her 5th birthday, I said. I wrapped my hands around the bars of his cage, feeling as if I could tear them apart with my rage. How do you know this stuff? He closed his eyes and shook his head. Because I've seen them do it before, he said. In a faraway voice, he added softly, a long time ago. The order killed my parents, didn't they? I asked. I'd held the suspicion for a long time. Rayla's abilities began to manifest when she was only 3 years old. My mother, afraid for her safety, went to our prima to beg for help and training. I wasn't allowed to attend their private meetings, but I overheard a lot of arguments between my mother and her older sister behind closed doors about the order's refusal to help. If they wanted her powers to manifest more quickly, it's possible they arranged the death of your parents as a catalyst, he said, something to push her deeper into her own emotions. There's nothing like tragedy and great sorrow to push a seeress past her limits at such a young age. If they believed they could use her abilities for their own good or to obtain some victory or power over someone else, they wouldn't hesitate, not even to spare the life of a child. Your Order of Shadows plays a very dangerous game, Red. Stop calling me that, I said, self-consciously tugging at my red hood. What would you prefer I called you? He asked. I shook my head. I didn't want to tell him my name. If he did go free, I didn't want him to be able to track us down now that he knew the truth about Rayla's powers. I had a feeling there were more people out there than just the Order who would be glad to get a hold of her. So, there's nothing you can do? Nothing anyone can do? I asked. She's just a little girl. I said there was no cure, but there are things that could help your sister. Like what? I asked. We're running out of time here. At least 2 minutes had passed. If you set me free, I can take you to an alchemist by the name of Rend, he said. He's an ancient demon from the shadow world with remarkable knowledge and talent when it comes to such things. I froze, my blood going cold. A demon? I shook my head. You're insane. Demons aren't to be trusted. He smirked and raised an eyebrow at me. Oh? But your precious order is? And who is it that told you demons are not to be trusted, huh? Are you so willing to believe everything you've been told when you know what evils they are capable of? My lips fell open and I sucked in a ragged breath. It suddenly felt as if my whole world had gone off kilter, tilted in some strange way. He was right. If the Order refused to help my mother and then killed her to push my sister deeper into her visions, putting her life at risk, how could I believe anything they'd told me? It wouldn't be the first time they'd betrayed me. What could this Rend, this demon, do for her? I asked. He could create a special potion that would protect her body from harm during her dreams, he said. She might still sustain some bruises or cuts, but it would keep her alive. It's a special shielding potion. She would need to consume just one tiny drop before sleeping each night. A small vial could last years if taken sparingly. For the first time in the 3 long years I'd been watching over my sister, hope flooded my heart. This was exactly the kind of potion or spell I'd been searching for in the Prima's libraries, but I'd been unable to find it. 2 minutes, Red, he said, glancing again at the boarded window to his left. What type of payment would this demon require to make this potion for me? I asked. I don't have any money. We can work out those details later, the man said. If you want to find out more, we need to go now. I had a million other questions I wanted to ask him. Why had he been locked away in here? What had he done for them to put him in such a strong cage? Where would we need to go to find this alchemist? But he was right. We were out of time. Through the open doorway, I could see the light of a witch's orb moving through the trees. I had to decide, and no matter how risky it was, I simply couldn't walk away from the possibility of a potion that would keep my sister alive. Is there a key to this cage? I asked. He let out a breath of relief, then shook his head. No, but you are a witch, aren't you? He asked. You have to move quickly, and you might want to extinguish that light before they get any closer. I stepped toward the cage, praying that I had the power to release whatever powerful lock they had placed on it, and that once he was free, he wouldn't betray me. I placed my hand on the large silver padlock and exhaled. My orb of light went out, leaving us in total darkness inside the small cabin. I swallowed and closed my eyes, letting my power sink deep into the ground beneath the floorboards and tapping into the power of the earth. A buzzing surged through my veins as if I'd been plugged into something electric. I imagined the lock opening, and after a few seconds, it clicked. Hurry, he whispered. I pulled the lock downward and twisted, pulling it from the cage. The man inside pushed the door open, and I could swear I heard the faint sizzling of his skin as he touched the silver bars. I waited for him to attack me, but instead he grabbed my hand, his eyes nearly glowing in the darkness. I told you I was no threat to you, Red. Come on, follow me, and I'll take you to see Rend, he said. He led me through the front door, carefully closing it behind us. We ran down the steps, around to the back side of the cabin, and into the darkness of the trees. As we disappeared into the night, I looked back just in time to see the first orb of light reach the porch of the cabin. All right, you guys. So that is the first half-ish of my story read. And I saw some questions coming by, a couple of questions. So yeah, Red is just the nickname that he's given her. Rayla is her little sister, and Charlotte is the name of the main character. So if you have not read the Shadow Demon Saga, there are some things there that are going to kind of tie into obviously the Shadow Demon Saga. So if that kind of magic sounded interesting to you, definitely pick up those stories, because it's going to go into what is the Order of Shadows, what are these gemstones like the ruby gates, and what makes her a ruby witch versus a different kind of witch. So there's a baby. Hi.
Gotta make her some drink.
She's still in her PJs. I'm going to take this ring off so I don't scratch her. Oh, I'm so glad that you guys are loving this story. Yeah, definitely go back and watch the replay if you enjoyed it. She has to grab my hair. Can you say hi? Say hi. Say hi. Little Miss Evie is officially 8 months old, you guys. Oh, I got lipstick on her. I got lipstick on her little head. I can't stop kissing her. Say 8 months, 8 months. You guys are so sweet. So I'm glad that you are definitely enjoying this. So where in the timeline in the series does this take place? Tiffany asks. So this would be, you actually get to kind of hear more about this person in Sacrifice Me Season 2. So this comes before. And if you want to see the full breakdown of the reading order and where it happens, if you go to my website at sarahcannon.com and you click on reading order, I tell you the entire order, and that is including all of the short stories and everything. So it's before Sacrifice Me Season 2, and it kind of gives you that idea. So some of these things are like little hints that you hear, like the war going on with that girl in Georgia. That is the main character of the Shadow Demon Saga. And it's her war, basically, which is, I mean, if you haven't read it, that might be a little bit of a spoiler, but not really, because you'll get to know as you go what that really even means with her. So the ruby witches, we don't even get to know about like the ruby witches and the different demon gates until you get into like book 7. But don't worry, it's not really a spoiler. It's just stuff that unfolds as you go. So yeah, it's after book 9, which is Beyond the Darkness, but before Sacrifice Me season 2. So lots of little things that kind of go in and out. So in that story world, like I said, there are the 10 main books, but there are lots of side stories and side books as well. So if you're enjoying that, definitely go and get started on the Shadow Demons Saga, which starts with Beautiful Demons box set, which is a free download that you can grab the first 3 books. Are you going to thread the 4 elements into this world? So I do have in this world, it's kind of something that I always keep coming back to with the 4 elements. So it is something that you do see in this world with the demons, with the 4 elements. So my character Jackson, that you'll get to know if you read the series, he has some powers that are more like fire powers. So you do see some characters that have more of an affinity toward fire or earth or whatever, but it doesn't really, I would say I don't stick strictly to like, you have to have an element that comes from the 4 powers. You have to have a power that comes from the 4 elements. I didn't really develop my magic system in that way, thinking about the 4 elements, but you do see, like I said, some characters that have an affinity for some types of elements. But you see more of the 4 elements in my Pandemic series or Eternal Sorrows series. It was called Pandemic when I first wrote it. So, oh, new grandson, Sherry, congratulations. That's exciting. Oh my gosh, Kelly, you are so amazing. Thank you so much for purchasing Once Upon a Kiss on multiple vendors. That really means a lot. Yeah, I saw somebody mention the paperback is kind of expensive. Yeah, I think the paperback is massive though. It's like, you think about it, it's almost 20 stories. So I think it's pretty big. It's like 200,000 words long. It's like huge anthology. So I think you guys will like some of the stories in this too. And what I love about anthologies is they're a good way to get to know new authors. So if you wanted to try out, are you making a little appearance? Who's that baby? It's like a little sneaking baby. If you want to try new authors without having to like start a whole new series, this is always a really cool way to do. Paperback is $19.99. So yeah, it's not bad for many, but like it's 17 different stories. So that's not terrible, but I know that's a lot more expensive than a 99-cent ebook. So I appreciate it. All of those sales definitely count. So Debbie D says, I'll be a first-time grandmother next month. Yay, congratulations. I'm sure that it is. I've been thinking about all these moms giving birth during COVID-19 and how stressful that must be and hard it must be to not be able to have all of your family coming in to the hospital with you. So definitely thinking about all of those moms and grandmoms that might have to wait until the babies get home from the hospital and so forth. But hopefully everything will be healthy and happy. Yes, she is feeling much better. We just had 2 rough nights, like all day Saturday. We were definitely together and just like we watched part of the live action Aladdin. We just sort of snuggled a lot. But by Sunday, she was feeling a lot better. And today she's kind of back to normal. Roseanne asked, what category would you say your books are in on Amazon? It's not urban fantasy, so contemporary fantasy. So Roseanne, I put my books in multiple categories. Yeah, I don't usually call my books urban fantasy because they don't really happen in an urban setting other than Sacrifice Me. I usually call them contemporary fantasy or young adult paranormal romance or paranormal fantasy. So it just kind of depends, but there are lots of different categories that it belongs to. Sometimes you'll even see my books in young adult horror, but typically I have them in young adult. But I do also have them categorized in urban fantasy because that's one of the better places to actually put them into the store, even though they don't have an urban setting. So Amazon categories are a little bit strange, but when someone asks me what this series is, I always call it YA contemporary fantasy. And sometimes I will call it just YA paranormal, even though it's more fantasy than paranormal. And once you get into the 4th and 5th books and you start to go into the fantasy world of it all, it's definitely much more fantasy than it is like a paranormal thing. But in the first book, there's like elements of ghosts and witches, and you're like, ooh, what is this? So I think it kind of crosses genres to a degree, depending on which book you're in. Buying shirts with grandmother sayings. I love that. Laura said, my cousin just had a baby and they're not letting anyone in. He had to stay in the hospital with his wife because if he left, he couldn't come back. Oh my gosh, that is so tough. We ended up with Evie. We were only in the hospital less than 24 hours. We checked in at around 6 p.m. And then I gave birth to her at 2 a.m. We got to a room and then we were checking out already by 6 p.m. that night. So we were there for just 24 hours before we left. So maybe they can get out of the hospital. Hopefully the baby is healthy and they can go home soon. But yeah, it's really, really tough. I'm sure for families that are giving birth that quickly. Rockstar, thank you very much. We had a hurricane. I don't know if you guys know that story, but we had a hurricane coming toward Charleston at the time. And we were like, can we go or do we have to stay? And they were like, well, we like to keep people 24 hours after birth just to check on the baby. But we were like, I mean, she was so healthy. I was doing really well. I gave birth with no intervention, which was what I really wanted, a VBAC with no meds or anything like that. So I was doing great and I didn't really need any super recovery time like I did with my son when I had a C-section. So yeah, we were able to leave really quickly. And then we just had to bring the baby back as soon as the hurricane had passed to do her little checkup and stuff like that. So it all worked out. And we ended up just kind of huddling in the house with no power for a couple of days after that. And it was really, really fun because it was like a little cocoon of our little family in the dark. I don't know. I know that sounds so crazy, but yeah, we did not stay in the hospital very long. Yay, ordered a paperback. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for your help. I thought about like, do you tell people that you're trying to hit the USA Today bestseller list? I don't know. But I thought, you know what? We're so open with each other and you guys have been so supportive. I sincerely appreciate it. So hopefully, fingers crossed, sending up all the manifesting type juju in the world, hoping that we can make this happen. It's going to be super awesome. I hope that you guys definitely enjoyed the first half of Red. Obviously, in the second half, we're going to find out who this mystery hero is, and you're going to find out a little bit more about him. But hopefully, you guys will actually want to hear more. So this is kind of a fun side story. But one of the things that I would really love to do, and I've mentioned this so many times in the coven, but it's just a matter of whether there's going to be time, is I would love to have an entire series that's based on some of the side characters in my Shadow Demon saga. So I would probably call it the Venom series, which is based on Ren's. Yeah, most of you know who he is, but some of you might not know yet. But yeah, if you've read it before, or if you've read the other series, you probably know who it is. Also, I have to laugh because, you know, he does have a British accent, and this is why I'm not a voice actress, because I couldn't do a British accent. I tried to play around with it, like, can I be this character and do a British accent? And then I was like, I've got people from the UK that are watching and they would maybe be so offended by my fake British accent. I was like, I can't do it. So I do apologize to that. But Roseanne, it does not matter if you buy a paperback or an ebook, and the ebook is only 99 cents. So definitely, unless you just particularly want to have the paperback, it counts just as much for you to buy the $1 ebook. So it all counts. Let's take lessons. I was like, could I do it? I don't know. I was trying to practice his accent, and then I was like, well, hello there. And then I was like, nope, not going to happen. Not going to happen. I'm a Southern girl. I used to have a really thick Georgia accent. I do not have as much of a Southern accent as I used to, but it's still there. And I just don't think I could do a British accent. I would definitely have to practice more if I were ever going to read this series, because I just feel like this is the hard part about audiobooks. Renee, I can do a crappy one. I could probably do a crappy one too. Roseanne said Amazon or other retailers. So you can buy it on any of the main retailers except for the No, I haven't picked a winner for the Bellish Challenge yet, Debbie. I'm going to be doing that this week. So you can buy it at any of the vendors and it will count as long as it's like one of the major vendors. So Apple Books, Kobo Books, Barnes & Noble, or Amazon. Google Play sadly does not count right now. So those are the main vendors. And if you buy it at any of those, it will count. So Cherie says, I'm from the UK and I wouldn't be offended. I love hearing people try to imitate our accents. Even professional actors have to study. Yeah, I was like, I feel like I would need to practice quite a bit to have anything passable. So just imagine in your minds that he has this amazing, very sexy British accent, and we'll go from there. But I'm excited to read the rest of this. Hopefully it is going to make you want to read more of his story, because I really would like to write an entire novel on this character and Charlotte. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. You guys are awesome. Debbie, I did mean to pick a Bellish Challenge winner for the hashtags that were being used, and I didn't do it. And part of it is just because we got so caught up in Evie having such a bad fever and everything from the vaccines that I just didn't do anything I was supposed to do on Friday or Saturday after the live. So yes, I'm glad you reminded me. I will be picking some winners on social media for a few of those hashtags. So let me know also if you have any cool ideas for what you guys might want to do, like on Friday. Next week, we're probably going to be reading my story Loxley, which again is just another short story from one of these anthologies. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that. And hopefully by the end of next week, I'll have more news on when The Witch's Key Season 2 is going to start, as well as when my Fate Surrender book is going to come out. So let me know if you have some ideas. Do you guys want to do another Q&A on Friday, or do you want to do something else? Should we do, I don't know, just if you can think of anything else that would be fun. Q&As would be fun. The cast lineup is fun. So we could do a cast lineup of the Eternal Sorrows series. That might be fun. So let me know what you think in the comments or over in the Coven if you have joined us over there. If you have not joined us in the Coven, come join us. We are getting very close to 3,000 members over there, which would be super awesome to have you. So come join us for sure. Also, I just want to say that didn't quite work. He was trying to bring her up. I also wanted to say, oh, now I'm going to lose my train of thought because George was making me laugh. See this smiley baby? Hi, look at this smiley girl. She's like, hello. She's feeling much, much better, you can tell. So let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, you guys, I totally lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But anyway, the cast lineup for the Eternal Sorrows might be kind of fun if you guys wanted to do that on Friday. There are brand new covers for the Eternal Sorrows series that will hopefully be going up on my website, as well as all the vendors this week. And hopefully I'm going to have a release date for Fate Surrender. There's so much going on right now. I feel like I'm like, woo, what's happening? There's so much I want to write. I feel like I've just unleashed the floodgates for the creativity and the writing to come. I'm also going to have a vlog this weekend for the editing of The Witch's Key, because I'm going to be sending that off to beta readers already this week. And so if you guys are interested, on Sunday, there will be a vlog of the editing process and what all I'm going through to get that book into shape for the pre-order. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy that too. And like some of the things that are changing and stuff like that. I love George's baby ninja entrances. He does this to me when we're not on film too. I'll just be like brushing my teeth or something, and there'll just be a little baby head like floating in the doorway. He's so crazy. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. Let me see if there's any other questions. Oh, I love those covers. Thank you, Sylvia. I'm so excited about the new covers for the Death's Awakening series. They're so, so good. Yes, Renee, I am going to be doing a video on heart breathings for the structure of The Witch's Key, but that video is going to come after the edits are finished, because I'm going to be going into how I edited it with the structure. So stay tuned. Trying to think about that as I've been reading it is hard. Yes, I understand. All right, you guys, I think that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for continuing to show up. I had questions about whether you guys would still be interested in hanging out even after the Witch's Key was over. And so many of you are continuing to show up, and it really does mean a lot to me that you're here. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if you get a chance. Thank you so much to everyone who has purchased a copy of Once Upon a Kiss. And like I said, even if you don't have $1 to spare right now, if you could share the post on Facebook or share this video with someone and let them know to purchase it, that would be so awesome. It just means a lot. We love you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love you guys too. I do. Evie loves you too. Look at these little teeth. You guys see her 2 little teeth down there? She's got 2 little baby teeth. Yeah, she's my sweet little princess. All right, you guys, love you so much. Thank you so much for coming. And I will see you again for the second half on Wednesday. All right, say bye-bye. Bye-bye, you guys.